And as we normally do, a bit of a disclaimer before tonight's episode, but it's going to be a bit different because this episode we're going to talk about multiple sclerosis and, moreover, the sort of battle that not only the people who have multiple sclerosis have to go through, but their families and their friends and whatnot. We're going to spend a really good conversation about that, and I'm looking forward to having it. But it gives me time to remind you of something really important, and that the National MS Society is a collective of passionate individuals who want to do something about MS now, to move together towards a world free of multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is comprised of unpredictable and often disabling flare-ups of the central nervous system and brain. Such flare-ups disrupt the flow of information within the brain and between the brain and the body. The National MS Society is the largest private funder of MS researchers in the world. They're investing more than $1 billion to date. MS stops people from moving, but the National MS Society exists to make sure that MS doesn't. To contact the National MS Society, please call 1-800-344-4867. Again, 1-800-344-4867, or go to their website at nationalmssociety.org. And on that, let's begin. Good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you may be, and welcome to the Venture Forward. I am John Venturini, a recovering addict of alcoholism, obesity, and compulsive gambling. And it's an honor and a pleasure to see all of you tonight on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Tonight, we're going to have a really important conversation. Because the thing is, outside of what I've been dealing with for the last 10 years, multiple sclerosis and demyelination affects many other people too. And the person that we have on tonight, a wonderful lady by the name of Susan Williams, has a story to talk about. Has been dealing with multiple sclerosis as it has affected her daughter. And multiple sclerosis doesn't only affect the people that have MS, but it affects their family. And I think if we don't capture that tonight, I don't know what. But I think the thing is, it's really important to talk about, without question. So let me get Susan on, and we'll start the conversation. And of course that happens. Hang on one second. There we go. And can you hear me, Susan?
I can.
Hey, there we go. Outside of not having any music in the intro, which is the second time that's happened in 2 weeks, I told you something was going to happen. There it goes.
You could do fake drums.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Um, is it worth me going back a little bit? I've known Susan for about, what is it, 12 years? Is it 11, 12 years?
You're making us feel old, but yes, it's over a decade.
Oh, I met her last week. Um,
No, you're right. It's actually more than a decade. So I think you're spot on with the 12 years.
yeah, I think the thing is, Susan bore witness to me going through that demyelinating event back in 2011. And then I had to be like a year or two later. It affected her daughter. And we'll talk about that in a second, but I'm really glad to have you on the show. And I just want to reach out to those that are on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch real quick as soon as I find my mouse, right? Because if there's not one thing, there's others. Marilyn says, good evening, good afternoon, JV. Hope you're doing well. I can hear you. And she says, welcome, Susan.
Hey, Marilyn.
All right. So where do we begin? Do we go back to, when was it? 2012, 2013?
For Brenna, or
Yeah.
yeah, so 4.5 years.
Okay.
From 2021.
Okay. So about 20, so I'm cutting it about 2016, 2017.
Yeah, it was about 6 months actually before she got married.
Hmm.
So I'll rewind just a little bit
Okay.
from when we finally realized that this is what was happening, and that being multiple sclerosis. So, which I want to say, John, was like September of that year,
Okay.
4.5 years ago, or October. But prior to that, now, like if I think back, Brenna was having episodes of, things that mirrored, I guess, what people would consider a flu.
Mm-hmm.
Just not getting better, fevers, exhaustion, sore throats, um, dizziness, which, she thought might be vertigo,
Mm-hmm.
because I had suffered from vertigo in the past. So, I think what happens is when you're experiencing certain things, you latch on to things that are familiar, or things that other people in your family have had that are familiar, because your brain doesn't, detour left and think something worse is happening. So I think it was like a month she was sick with the flu in the spring of that year. She just wasn't getting better.
Mm.
And then, probably, 30 days later, she finally was like, wow, I'm starting to feel better. But what was happening was she was having, an MS episode, but, did not know it. And being 26 at the time, her mind wasn't going, oh, I need to go see a physician, or I need to go to the emergency room, right?
Right.
She's just like, I just need to rest more, because she was also a hospice care nurse at the time. And
Right.
so she just chalked it up to, or ICU, I apologize. She was working as an ICU nurse. So she just chalked it up to, I'm tired. I'm working too many shifts. I've been up too late. It's my job. I mean, that's kind of where her brain went.
Mm-hmm.
She also is or was a rock climber.
Mm-hmm.
So, she thought that maybe she injured herself rock climbing. Her leg started hurting her. It was numbing. It wasn't getting better. So kind of fast forward a little bit, she kind of went through the summer with these weird things that were happening: her vision, her vertigo, the dizziness. And then in the fall, I was living in another state from where she was at the time. And she had called me, probably dinner time-ish, and said, hey, I'm going to go to the hospital. And I got to be honest, I wasn't even nervous. I asked her why, and she said, oh, that remember my leg, and it's numb and it's still hurting me, and it's not going away. So I figured I'd, go to the hospital and see what they think. And I thought nothing of it. I really did. And then she called me, because she was there hours later, and said they're going to admit me, keep me overnight. And I thought, she's 26. Like, why would they do that? So
Right.
I immediately dropped everything and drove home to the hospital, because I just knew in my heart something wasn't right. 26-year-old healthy female, like, why would they be doing that?
Right.
And they were running all kinds of tests, and the neurologists were there. But they wanted to have different neurologists look at her, her MRI screenings. And I thought, so, something just didn't seem right.
Two and two are not making four anymore. There's something going on.
Yeah. So the next morning, The neurologist was supposed to come back in after they had had their meetings with 4 other neurologists up at Hartford Hospital, excellent hospital. And so 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning is when she got delivered the news. And it took my breath away. It took her breath away. And I remember it to this day. I get emotional about it. I still feel like I get choked up about it. Right. Because here's my daughter, she's a nurse and she's well educated and she has been taking care of sick patients. So, she has seen things. And this is when they finally told her the diagnosis. And it took a while because it was very similar. A lot of these symptoms are very similar to if folks have ever had Lyme disease or know anything about Lyme disease, and it hits your nervous central system. So that's what they thought at first. And it took a few of them to kind of get to the point of understanding what she had based on the lesions. And John, later on, you can show, maybe a visual aid so that we can kind of explain that to folks when we say that. Yeah. But the only easy way right now without a visual aid in front of us is it's like when you have a cut. And you have a cut and you put a Band-Aid on it and, it heals. But if it's deep enough, you can kind of still see your scar. And it's a scar and that never goes away. It doesn't get better. It doesn't heal. And so those were on her spine and on the brain. So this, which ended up leading to multiple sclerosis. But I do remember it took my breath away and I had to leave the room because her very first response, even though she was a nurse, and she was 26, said, "Am I going to die?" And she just broke down. And I literally just, I just held my breath. I just excused myself and I had to go out in the hallway and I just lost it. I didn't know what it was. I had to go educate myself, but I knew that wasn't good. I knew just even based on her response. And, the doctor coming in and delivering the news, I knew this was not good news, but not knowing anything about it. I mean, I was just heartbroken. And to hear her ask the question, 26 years old, I mean, you're resilient. You have your life in front of you. You should be worrying about, what your eating are, or I don't know, easy stuff, simple stuff, her wedding, things like that. So, that was a curveball. And I come from a very large family, John, as you know. I'm one of 9. I've got 20 nieces and nephews. It's a very large family. There is not a single person on my side of the family that has ever been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Right. Her father's family is a large Italian extended family, and there is not one person on his side of the family that has multiple sclerosis. So it's not a hereditary thing. It can be, but it's not a hereditary thing. And so this was something that none of us on either side had ever experienced, heard of, or dealt with.
The last set of numbers I saw, not to cut you off, the last set of numbers I saw were about 3 million in the world that have MS, but 1 million of those are based in the United States. Now, I don't know if there's different works with the ICD-9, ICD-10 to figure that out or whatnot, but there seems to be a high preponderance of multiple sclerosis diagnosis within the United States.
I've read that. I have read that. And I don't know what the links are to that. I don't know, if folks, if in other places outside the U.S. are ahead of it in terms of things that they're doing differently in terms of diet or exercise or vitamins or where they live. I don't know if that contributes to it. Right. And again, and John, you know this, that there's so many unknowns with multiple sclerosis. There has been a lot of great research and we've made a lot of strides in the last decade, but there still is a lot they have not uncovered, which is why it is really important. And every year we go through this trying to raise money and donate it to the National MS Society, because we want them to continue doing their research to find more about it so that we can get in front of this, hopefully either to prevent it or for you and for Brenna to make sure that the symptoms you two have today do not progress. You'll never be able to heal those. But what we do want to do is hope that we can stop the progression of your symptoms so you can live a longer, healthier life. I mean, at the end of the day, and that even means mentally, right? Because cognitively, it does impact you as well, not only physically. And then those two combined impact your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've seen my daughter go through highs and lows, and it was very frustrating in the beginning, just trying to get appointments, trying to get drugs approved, trying to find physicians, trying to find help, belonging to support groups,
Right.
insurance companies. I mean, shame on them, I will say. We live in the US. We can do better. I mean, she had to jump through hoops to get approval for drugs that her doctor was recommending, not that she wanted, but was required, because everybody that has MS, the treatment is different. What you're doing, or the medications you're taking, or the things you're doing to help you with the disease, to live with it on a daily basis, is either the same or different, or a combination of that with Brenna.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be very frustrating.
Yeah, it's I gotta tell you, it's a very individualistic disease, right? Because it'll affect people many different ways. Susan, I'm not sure if you remember what exactly happened to me in 11, but for me, it was muffledness in my ears.
I remember.
It was
Yep.
the optic freezing. It
That's what. Yeah.
was the desensitization at the top of my head, down the right hand side of my body, etc. And the thing is, it's that sort of, you put it perfectly the last time we talked about it. It is that sort of, it's like that sort of communication between your brain and the parts of your body, and there's something in the way of it.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. It's incredible to realize that someone can go through this. And moreover, it's very hard to figure out exactly what's causing that. And you said Lyme disease, which is funny because that's exactly what I thought it was when I got it back in 11, was this is Lyme disease. And there are other people saying it's Lyme disease.
Yeah, they mentioned that to her as well, John. Yep.
Um,
Yeah, and so Brenna, she has lesions on the brain and on her spine. She, occasional dexterity issues in her hand. She's got numbness on her torso. She has numbness in her leg. It's awful to watch. I got to be honest. And as I'm a personality. I'm a fixer. I want to do everything I can for Brenna. I always have. And you feel helpless. You feel helpless. And privately. And I'm glad you're doing this, and I really do appreciate it, because it is all about Brenna. And I do want to make that clear. It is about my daughter, and it is about her disease. And I never want to overshadow that with my concern or my worry or what's happening to me. But the reality is, you do suffer, as a family member, watching your loved one go through that, because there is nothing you can do to fix it.
right.
And for me, I always prided myself on being able to help Brenna in that way. It was very tangible to me. If she needed something, I could provide it. If she, was sick, I could be there for her. And learning about it and knowing I could not do anything about it. I mean, I was depressed. I was really depressed and sad for a good few months. I mean, and I had to snap out of it. I had to tell myself, Susan, you can't feel sorry for yourself. You can't feel sorry for her. You've got to pull it together, and you have to find a way that you can help. And it may not be the same way you did before, but you have to find a way that you can contribute and help, and obviously support. And I'm always there. Whenever my daughter needs me, I'm there. 99% of the time. But I also then got involved with being the captain of the MS, the MS team within, her region, and, doing the walk and raising money and being very passionate about that, because I felt like every penny and every dollar, like I can't describe it. You give me $5 and I'm thrilled. I don't care if it's $1, but for me, seeing the numbers go up, I just took such pride in that, because I felt like this is going to help people. This is going to further the research. And I hope in my lifetime, and especially in yours and hers, I hope that they can find a cure for this. I hope that they can find more to help people and to help my daughter and to help you. So that right now is my passion. And that's kind of where I put my energies. I have to. I needed to kind of find an outlet, and that's kind of been my outlet. Brenna does have 2 children, and being able to help her even from that perspective, and watch them when she needs help, or visit that's important to me. Because I feel like I have to feel like I'm doing something. And so it's good for my brain, and it's good for me emotionally to kind of put myself, but I'm not going to lie. I have moments, there's moments when, not that I forget about it, but John, you and I talked about this. If you look at you or you look at Brenna, people may say, oh, if you didn't say you had MS, they would think you look fine. John looks okay, and my daughter looks okay. And so a lot of times, if I see her, it kind of goes to the back of my mind. It's not that it goes away, but for a moment, for temporary moments, I forget.
There was a really good graphic you sent me. I'm going to bring it up real quick.
Please.
And of course, when I do that, you're hiding again. Hang on one second.
No, that's okay.
There we go. Perfect. Okay. It's that hidden versus visible.
Yeah. It's very
Just
important.
because you can't see my scars doesn't mean that they aren't there. Living with multiple sclerosis is a never-ending battle. Please be patient with me. I'm going through a lot more than you can see.
So, I think we all need to be very mindful. If you see somebody pulling into a handicap spot and they get out and they don't have a visible limp or a wheelchair or a cane or something where you can visually see something and go, oh, okay, they have the right to park there. We have to understand that there are people that have diseases, just like MS, where you guys are having things internally that does prevent you from walking further, and you do get exhausted. I'm very active, and I could, run miles and go for walks for hours. My daughter can't do that. She can't physically do that. It's not that she doesn't want to do that. Her body just will not allow her to do that. She has to pay attention to her body, and she has to make sure that, she's getting rest and, doing what she needs to do to manage her multiple sclerosis. And I have to keep that in mind. And sometimes I look at her and I'm like, let's go, we're going, and she's like, no, no, it's too hot, or we're going, it's too far. And I'm like, and then my brain goes, oh yeah. Oh yeah. So just, she's had it for 4.5 years, but I still have the, oh yeah moments, over the holidays, her, optic neuritis, with the eyes and the headaches. And, we're in the middle of the holiday and she's like, oh, my head's killing me. And why? And then, she tells me and I'm like, oh yeah. Like, I still have those moments.
Yeah, so, the thing about the connection between the brain and the central nervous system and the rest of our body, it affects many parts of those pieces of the brain, the pieces of those CNS that, it's just what we need to function. But as that graphic said earlier, no one knows that we're going through this, right? No one knows that we're dealing with all this.
Yeah, agreed. That's a great visual aid. John, I think that's important for people to kind of understand. And I don't know if there's anything in there even from, your doctor's appointments or something that you kind of want to point out. But it's a great visual for people to see.
Yeah, I think, the thing is, I could talk about exactly the sort of course of treatment that Penn Medicine wants me to take. And funny enough, I do have an update on that real quick. And the fact that I was supposed to go for a vaccine shot today, and based on what's been going on with me the last month and a half, I am in desperate need of Osirvis now. So the course to go to Osirvis next week is still on. So let me go back to the screen share for a second.
Go ahead, take your time.
Osirvis is basically a medication that's taken twice a year. It's a 4-hour infusion with 2 starter doses 2 weeks apart. Those starter doses start on March 31st for me in Philadelphia at Paramount Center. Okay. And then just a reminder that it's caused by your immune system attacking the myelin sheath surrounding the nerves in your brain, and that the B cells are basically a target, which is basically why Osirvis or Ocrevus, I've heard it pronounced 9 different ways, attacks the B cells, because those are basically aggravating that sort of lesion, that sort of demyelination within the brain and the central nervous system. There is no such thing as remyelination right now, as you were alluding to, Susan. There's no Lorenzo's oil. This is what we have. Yeah. And there's plenty of studies out there about Drugs like metformin, that could be a remyelinating agent. They did a study with metformin in rats, which metformin is a diabetic's medicine, right? It's for diabetes. They found remyelination with rats, but it hasn't progressed to any sort of human study yet. So there's hope, but there's nothing right now. That's why the National MS Society is very important. That's why the MS walks or Walk MS has been very important too.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So, John, do you want to go a little deeper in the myelin sheath? Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Sure. Do I have a graphic for that? I might do. Hang on one second. Yeah,
I might have sent you one, John. It looks like a tube, like a blue tube.
That,
Yep.
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 So, myelin is basically the protection for our nerves that basically are connected from the central nervous system and the brain to the rest of the body. When you have multiple sclerosis or any sort of demyelinating symptom, here's a funny fact. There are other disorders that can cause demyelination, but they're not necessarily multiple sclerosis per se, but multiple sclerosis by definition is multiple scler. So if you have multiple scars, multiple lesions, then you have an MS diagnosis.
Right.
So basically you see that sort of connection between the brain, that myelin sheath, and also the sort of cord that helps with those synapses. So you talk about the nerve center, the central nervous system down the spine and the brain, and the synapses, the main form of communication, and how that sort of lesion or that sort of blockage can cause that sort of temporary halt in communication. And it may be something as simple as my hearing's muffled. It may be something as simple as my eyesight's off. But as you saw with Brenna, it can become something a lot deeper, a lot worse than that.
Yeah, agreed. Yep. And if you look so folks that are looking at this, if you look up in like the top right-hand box, that's a normal nerve. And then if you look at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, that's the damaged nerve. And what's important also about that is that we have spoke about earlier is even though John and my daughter are getting treatment, those do not heal. So that damage is damaged. And so the hope is that the treatment that John is doing or the treatment that my daughter's doing, which is different, by the way, they have her on Rituxan, which is similar, right? It's through the IV. I don't think she needs to do it as often, if I remember. I think it's like every 6 months. It has stopped, obviously, because she gave birth to my grandson in November and is breastfeeding, so she cannot be doing that. But when that stops, she'll go back to treatment. And they used to do 2 doses. Like she would go get 1 dose and then 2 weeks later have to come back in. Now they just do the single, and I believe they're still on a 6-month cycle, and then they would
exactly how a service works too. It's the same.
Yeah, and then they'll repeat the MRIs occasionally as well. And she's also done a cognitive test to baseline from a cognitive perspective where she is, so that obviously as time goes on they'll probably redo that. But the drug that you're taking or the treatment that you're doing or things that you're doing are hoping that it kind of freezes where you are, right? It kind of doesn't allow it to progress.
Right.
And so whatever you have up to this point, you have. And the hope is that there will not be progression. So that's the same, with my daughter. So, and that's why it's important, for us to raise the money and for there to be further research, because they could discover another drug, they could discover another treatment or a way to heal this. And everyone's different. Some people do it through diet. I've heard all kinds of different methods for people. And I say, my thought is, people say, what does your daughter do? And I would say you and your doctor need to figure out what works for you. And if it's through diet and people believe in that, then do that, because if that is what makes you feel better at the end of the day, then that's what you should be doing. Yeah. And so I never say, oh, this is what she's doing, you should do the same thing, or you have to work with your physicians, and you have to find something that you and your physician agree on, that you feel is going to make you feel better, or allow you to, live with it every day, get up every day and feel okay.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting to see I know when I was first diagnosed with demyelination back in 11, I ended up going to 3 different places. I went to Hartford Hospital. They did the spinal tap and the MRIs and whatnot, and that seemed to be the one that prevailed. But it was one event, and knowing how healthcare was in 11, it really was a scarlet letter. That's why I really didn't go down that road. And I think when we got to November of last year, November of 20, I'm starting to get the desensitization again and the muffled hearing in my ear and all that stuff. I knew something was up. And I went to my PCP, and on New Year's Eve, the symptoms were so bad. On New Year's Eve, I went to my PCP, and she said, "You're going to the hospital." Now, in this really crazy world we're living in right now, I'm not going to say exactly what because I don't want to be demonetized, but you kind of know what this is, right? You kind of know what the last year was. But going to the hospital, going to the ER, was absolutely harrowing. When I should have been on a 5-day sort of treat of Solu-Medrol, I was on a half-day treat and then was sent home. Was given prednisone. But I don't blame them because, again, there are people that are there for the thing I cannot mention. I think someone called it the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. I think that's a really great way of calling it, right? Yeah, so there was that. And we get into January, and it's obviously what's going on. She put me in touch with a neurologist over at Penn Medicine. I've been working with him. He has me on a study to do deep MRIs, so 7 Tesla MRIs, so very strong machine. You don't even need to take contrast. That's how strong the image is. And between that and the previous event, it was a no-brainer what was going on. So then it's a question of what is the right course. Is it RRMS? Is it PPMS? What is it? My neurologist seems to think that Ocrevus, whichever way you want to pronounce it, is the right way to go. And it's a similar sort of cadence as the drug that your daughter's taking, which is 6 months, every 6 months, but 2 starter doses, 2 weeks apart. Mm-hmm. And, it's the sort of thing where I'm feeling such horrendous symptoms. And again, it's things that you can't see physically, but I could tell you that I got a graphic on that in here real quick, but the sort of MS fog, right? It's something that I'm definitely dealing with in a sense. Let me get that graphic up. I'll just get that one back up for a second.
Yeah, sure. Take your time.
There we go. So yeah, there's the visual disturbances, mental changes. So mental changes for me, horrible, absolutely horrible. I think the fact that I've been very emotional over the last 4 months, there's something to be said about that. But here's the other thing. There's a lot to be said about stress in general, especially when you've had a demyelinating event before. Yeah. And if you take the events of the last 2 years and change, losing that massive weight for a third time, sobriety, stopping compulsive gambling, which again, let's face it, is a dopamine trip, so I cut that out. Trying to tackle my financial problems and going to bankruptcy, and I'll mention this for the first time on a show, why not? The D word. Going through the D word. Which which has the term divorce. Going through divorce, right? I'll just say divorce.
And I think what you're saying is important because everyone's going through something or has gone through something, right? I've gone through divorce, and doing that without having all of the extras that you just layered on, and not having a disease that I need to personally worry about. Not that I'm not worried about my daughter, but I only had to worry about myself, and kind of getting through it. Not that it wasn't hard or whatnot, or I didn't need to reach out for help, but I didn't have that layered onto it. And I also, don't have symptoms where stress can really deteriorate your disease.
Yeah.
It might make me tired, and I might have to sleep extra, or, I might struggle getting out of bed because I'm older now and I, moan and groan when my feet hit the floor. But after a couple minutes, like, I can kind of shake that off. It's not something that you and my daughter can shake off. You don't get up and go, oh, if I walk around for a half an hour and get some coffee and maybe, I'm going to feel better and I'm going to, I can go and conquer the world. No, it, your body is telling you, I can't do it. I can't do it today. And you really do have to pay attention to that. So I could see it. Then you layer on the pandemic, John, on top of everything that you had going on. That could have been very serious for you. So the fact that you were having, symptoms and relapses or flare ups or however you want to define those is not surprising. On top of everything else that was happening, and probably very scary for you because, the mental health aspect of this is just as important as the physical aspect of it. So making sure that you're meditating or doing yoga or whatever that is that you require to keep yourself calm, and making sure that you're making different decisions that you may not have made before to make sure that you're reducing stress in your personal life
Mm-hmm.
is very important for your disease and for your well-being, to be honest. So, you bringing all that up, one, thank you for sharing all that with everybody and being vulnerable and sharing that, because there's a lot of people going through a lot of stuff, and knowing that you're not alone and that you have somebody that went through all that and is here sitting in this chair doing this interview is heroic, and you should be proud of yourself. And I do thank you for sharing that.
Susan, I'm really thankful that you're doing the interview tonight and talking about this. And I gotta say this, and let me go back to two panel here real quick. It's sort of the reason why the Venture Forward started, right? It's that sort
Mm-hmm.
of cathartic sort of exercise for me in order to tell the story. I've gone through a lot of things in this life that not many people go through, as far as multiple and as far as the amount of times, and as also the other things that are going on. The fact that I'm telling the story and also putting journal entries together and writing a book, I mean, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. But it's also talking about this 3 times a week,
Mm-hmm.
which has been really helpful for my mental state. If I didn't have this, I don't know what I'd do, right? So I'm thankful for you joining the show tonight and jumping on and telling your story and telling Brenna's story, because it's the sort of thing that our support net is very strong when we come together, especially when we come together for a common cause. The common
And John,
cause
thank
here.
you for me. I mean, you know me for a lot of years,
Mm-hmm.
and I am a very strong person, but I'm also a very private person. And I try not to show too much to people, and I try not to complain too much externally. And I hide a lot. It's difficult for me to be vulnerable. It's difficult for me to tell you that I'm scared, and that I have fear, and I do appreciate this because it's maybe something I need to do more of. I mean, I talk about it in the sense of raising money or awareness, but not in the sense of kind of getting in touch with my emotional state and how it's changed me. Because I get choked up about it. I try not to go too deep because it's upsetting.
Right. A couple comments while we were talking here. Paul Weber over in the UK says, "Hi, John and Susan. Have a great show." Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. And Byrne, thank you for chiming in. So proud of you. Good to see you tonight. Hope you're doing well over there upstate. Love you. Um, so let's talk about the walk and the venture. The venture. Let's talk about the charity and the sort of the walk that's done in May, and we'll talk about the sort of work that you and Brent have done to raise money for the National MS Society.
Yeah, so the MS Society across the United States. So everybody probably in their own state or their own town or county has a walk. The link that you've provided will bring them to our page. But just understand, even though it goes to Brenna's team under my bucket, the money still gets pooled together to the MS Society overall, right? So, but for this chapter, obviously, because that's where she resided, that's the one that we just participate in now. Because of the pandemic, that has changed the model a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So last year was the first year that we did a virtual walk, and it also extended the time on collect-in, which was really nice. So instead of the walk being in April and kind of everything having to wrap up by June in terms of collections, you could walk between April and September and also collect donations during that period of time. And it actually, you know what, the pandemic, has shined a light and has provided the ability for people to be more creative. So yes, there's been some negatives, but there's also been some upside to, you think about what restaurants have done to be creative, and what these groups have done that are trying to raise money, because now you can reach so many more people virtually, and people can now do the walk at their convenience, in their own yard, in their backyard, or get their friends together or their families together, or go to the park. So we ended up doing fairly well last year during the pandemic, and we had a lot of folks across the United States, which was really cool, that became part of the team that would not normally have been able to do that if it was an in-person walk. So this year they're going to do the same thing. My guess is hopefully 2022 they'll be able to do in person, but maybe their model will change, because they have been reaching more people now. So maybe they'll do a hybrid, maybe they'll do the in-person plus, do virtual walks and things like that. So as a combination, but this year we'll do the virtual walk. And again, people can do it between April and September. I'll let people know when our team is doing it. So if you want to do it on the same day, it could be any time of that day. You could videotape yourself doing it. You can, say a quick message. You can just take a snapshot of a picture and post that up. Click on that link. It's very easy to fill out. You can also make sure that you write that off on your taxes. You don't have to put your name. It can be anonymous. So if you don't want them to reach back out to you, so you could do that as well. If you've got questions, certainly let John know, and John can get in touch with me. But that's kind of where my heart is right now, just trying to do the best that I can and helping Brenna. I'm also helping millions of others that are inflicted with multiple sclerosis. So that kind of, gives me a little peace of mind.
Yeah, I was going to actually, I was going to ask you if it would be okay if I live streamed me doing the walk, your chapter's walk.
Oh, I would love that, John. I would love that. Last year, and I did a video, John. I can't live stream because I run unless I put a GoPro to my head, and I don't want people hearing me breathe. But I usually start, like I'll say, I opened it up last year. I kind of did a short video, and then I did one sort of like when I finished, made posters or whatnot. So be as creative as you want. Do it for yourself. Do it for Brenna. Do it for the millions of others that you talked about. That have multiple sclerosis. But I kind of leverage that. It's funny. It's changed my mindset. Not that I don't complain, because I think everyone, don't get into the mindset where you can't complain. Don't be a hero. If you're having a bad day, have a bad day. And say, hey, right, I'm having a bad day. But I do sort of. I do take strength from you and from Brenna and from the millions other that have this disease or other diseases now. And I just, I say to myself, either on my run or my walk or when I'm working out, I stop and I think about how fortunate and grateful I am for my body, just to move and to move at my age and to be okay and not to have pain. And every time I go for a run, I dedicate it to somebody, whether that's Brenna or somebody else. I just kind of just say it out loud. And I just, this run is for X. And I say that to myself. And then during my run, there'll be times if running's very mental, so it's similar to kind of, John, what you were describing, even about you getting through your day to day, right? You find things and you have to mentally be strong. So when I'm running, I just think of that mentally. I say, no, Susan, you got this. You can, like, you're okay. You know what I mean? Think about other people that can't do this and, just push. So for me, it's been very motivating and inspiring I see my daughter every day. I think she's courageous. I think she's strong. I think she's resilient. I'm proud of her. I'm more, I mean, I can't even say enough. I just can't. And even you, John, you sharing all those things, you should be, my God, I'm looking at your whiteboard earlier and I was reading all that, and I was thinking, holy cow, like 700 days of this and 800 days of that and 500 of this. I mean, it's not like you took one thing and you tried to master it, which is so hard mentally. You took on just, you took on so many things at one time, and tackled them all. And I mean, it just, to me, that's mind blowing. So if you do write a book, I'll read it, because I think it's important for people to understand that you can have things going on in your life that are not good, but if you put your mind to it and you really mentally turn that switch and make that decision that you want better, you can do better, And what's great is every day is a new start. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if yesterday you didn't do something. Hey, I don't go to the gym every day. I don't work out every day. And I just got to the point where it's like, it's okay. I tell myself that it's okay. I accomplished nothing yesterday, but you know what? It doesn't even matter. Just be in the present moment. And today is what matters. It's a clean slate. And every day we wake up, we get a chance to do it again. So, I'm very proud of you, my friend. And I'm very blessed to have you in my life. And
likewise.
I thank you for doing this.
Thank you. I go to these sayings all the time because I think they mean something to me when I realize that I am an alcoholic. And I also have a problem with overeating. I do have a problem with compulsive gambling. So I have 3 sets of chips in my pocket, but it's same phrases, same steps, same phrases. It's one day at a time, one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. Yeah. And the thing is, every moment is indeed a gift. Whether it is not the greatest thing that happens, it is indeed a gift. And we should never dwell upon the past. We learn from it, but that's how we move forward. That's how we are able to do such great things and really build the love within ourselves so we can give it to so many other people.
Yep. And I think with my daughter, I've learned also not to jump ahead, because, there was such a fear based about the future, right? The unknown, because we tend to deal with the knowns much better. It's like, if I know that, at least bad or good, it's okay, because at least I know. So the unknowns are what was killing me. Not knowing a year or 5 years or 10 years. I had to get out of that, and I had to kind of just say, Susan, just be present. Mm-hmm. She's safe. She's okay. She's loved. She's supported. She's healthy in other ways. So that's kind of where I have to keep my brain, because if I go there, it's a dark place for me.
Right.
So that's something that I have to remind myself about daily, because when it's your child, you don't want anything to be wrong with your child. And as a parent, you want to be able to help them and heal them and support them. And, when things are outside of your control, it really can make you a little batty. So, for her sake and for my sake, I need to stay present, and I need to be supportive in any way that she deems necessary. And then I need to find outlets for myself in terms of how I can support her and MS. And so that I just have to remind myself about that on a daily basis.
Some comments from Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Sue says, and I'm going to try to get this more centered over here because it's just flying all over the place. Thank you both for sharing so much tonight. You both are very strong in helping me understand even more.
Thank you.
And then Matt Haas over in the center of the state says, hi, John. Hi, Susan. It's nice to meet you.
You too. Thank you.
And then LT over in Utah says, hey, everyone. LT is a great individual. He runs a channel out in Utah called Recovering Addict. Has a really strong base outside there, but they talk more than just alcohol and whatnot. It's about recovery over addiction. Great guy, great family. I try to catch them as much as I can. So much so that Marilyn says, hi, LT. So that's part of the LT family over here, Recovering Addict, but great guy. Let's see. I would say in a fundraising season or other things that are related to MS, Are there things that are fresh in your mind now that you find that you have a better understanding now than you did when it happened 4.5 years ago?
Yeah, uh, I think I had the same reaction Brenna did. She's gonna die, and you like, no, we're all gonna die. But there is help, and there are doctors now that are well versed in multiple sclerosis. Again, further than they were. Medicine's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You think about just 10 years ago in terms of what they knew versus today, and we're very lucky to reside where we do in the United States because there are spectacular physicians. They now cross share information, unlike back in the day. I mean, they've got computer systems and boards, and they talk to each other, so they're learning from each other. So I have more comfort knowing that there's support,
Mm-hmm.
and there are physicians that know more, and there is help. And Brenna belongs to other groups,
Mm-hmm.
and she talks to other people, and I think that's very important. I think what I'm learning from this is I too think I need to do the same thing, and have support groups that I could also talk to, people that are dealing with something similar, with a family member that has something like this. I mean, there's plenty of groups. So, I'm just having this epiphany as we're having this conversation, and I'm here. So I'm very honored and grateful for this moment. I can't even,
Me too.
my brain is exploding with all kinds of thoughts, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Education, John, I will say to folks, if you don't know much about it, read about it, educate yourself. I mean, that was the most important thing is I just read, because I needed to make sure that I wasn't scared. The unknown is scary. And so just learning more than I did, those graphics you show, the visual aids, those are very important, and it was very important for me to get a better understanding of it. And if I have any questions or concerns, or, want to know how Brenna's doing, I just ask her. I try not to poke too much, and I don't know if I'm not poking enough, and I don't know if I should be asking more or not asking more. And
Stay
so,
curious. Stay curious.
I try to ask, but not over ask. And, I know that she's gonna be okay. You know what I mean? And there are unknowns for all of us. I mean, even though I don't have multiple sclerosis, there's unknowns for me. And so, um, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, and every day is precious.
Mm-hmm.
And know that every day you wake up, you open your eyes, you breathe, and you put your feet on the ground, say thank you. And that is exactly what I do. And I'm not just saying that, I literally say thank you when my feet hit the ground. And I'm very grateful for that.
Every
We
day is
also
truly a gift.
Yeah, it kind of just it kind of reminded me. It unfortunately took, not that I wasn't grateful, but because I always have been grateful, but it really just kind of um, sobered me up that life really is short, and life is precious, and
Mm-hmm.
there are unknowns, and at any point, at any time, something like that can happen, and change the course of your life forever. So stay present, stay plugged in, and and just do the best you can every day. Don't be so hard on yourself.
It's a really great advice. And sometimes when you go through this, but even when you don't, we beat ourselves up more times than not. It's very easy to do that. And we
Yeah.
need to never forget that. We cannot beat ourselves up. We take the moments, we take the lessons, we learn them, we don't dwell, we move forward.
Yeah. And John, I think, you're a gift. I think about all the stuff that you've gone through. There are no mistakes. I think that you were meant to go through that. I think that that was your journey to where you're sitting right now. And you would not have the information that you have today to help other people and to educate people if you did not go through that. So, one, don't ever be ashamed. But there are no mistakes, and I do believe that there was a plan for you, and I think that you're going to continue to do great things, and this channel is amazing, and you should be really proud of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A couple more comments. Ob, good morning. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Marilyn says it was very enlightening to thank you for your connection to MS. I think she meant to say enlightening. And then LT says, beautiful epiphanies. I love seeing that happen.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Great community, John.
Incredible community. I'm very blessed. But I gotta say the other thing, you go through all these sort of things, and I was talking to someone earlier in the day about, I if I try to make this the greatest of sense of the last 2 years, 3 years, I wouldn't even know where to begin, right?
Yeah.
And it's more than the magical mystique of 2020. It was the fact that I went down the road to lose the weight in 2019. That's when a lot of the things started to happen in 2019. And fast forward to 2020, late 2020, the second demyelinating event, the multiple sclerosis diagnosis, all of that. It's been a very interesting time. But one where I'm trying to absorb as much as I can and learn as much as I can, but just remind myself not to have any sort of I guess over the edge sort of effect off it, any sort of over the edge sort of reaction, I guess would be my thought.
Yeah. I mean, if you think back, have you paused and just think back to 2 years ago and everything you've done and been through, like if you're sitting there today and like you think about that and when you go through something, you think, man, I was strong. Like I got knocked down. I got up, and you got up several times, and you kept doing that. So, but that doesn't mean, John, that we don't have bad days. And that goes back to what I was saying. It's okay to have a bad day, and it's okay. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. And sometimes your body is telling you that you need to feel those feelings. Let it out. Let it flow through you. Get it out. Don't drag it around and push it down. Just let it out. Let it go, because it's got to take its course in order to clear its path. And then you'll be okay. But the strength that, you've shown, my friend, like if you think back, do you pause and ever like reflect back on that? Like, it's just mind blowing to me.
I think the first moment of weakness I had with you was about 10, 11 years ago. And I was nervous in front of within minutes of a committee meeting. And you kind of said, okay, you don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. And I think there was that sort of no nonsense way about you that made me realize, holy, she's right.
No, I know what I told you. I told you that you're smart, you know your stuff, know that, have confidence in yourself, and just give them the information that they want. Stop worrying.
Yeah. I mean, I think that in itself was a lesson and a half, especially the things that happened in that meeting.
Yeah.
When there was that sort of, we won't go, we're going to basically keep names out to protect the innocent here. But it was a very contentious meeting. And when something happens before your turn, that's like, oh, did someone just get fired?
Yeah.
And if you remember, I said, I could come back another day to pitch this. And everybody started to realize, oh, that's ridiculous. What just happened here? Oh, no. Go ahead. Pitch your proof. Go ahead and do that.
We had good times, John.
Great times, fantastic times, and I'm very blessed and very thankful to have our paths cross and to be friends for as long as I'm so blessed for you. I thank you so much.
I know you don't have a lot of time, but we did have a funny beginning though to our story in terms of because I was hired as a consultant.
Protecting the innocent. Don't mention particular names, but you.
No,
I
can briefly share and like boil the story down because it is a funny story. So before I was supposed to start and work for Mr. Venturini, and we had never met in person. They told me I was going to be working with this guy named John and what I was supposed to be doing as a project manager. But unfortunately, I went out the night before and got food poisoning.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So I actually was so sick. I was in the hospital. Remember, and I didn't know because it would have been my first day. So I didn't have any contacts because it was a contractor position. So I didn't know how to get in touch with anybody. And I was in the hospital. And so poor John thought, oh my God, this new person, like she doesn't even show up for work. Like what is this deal? So he was a little upset. So I had, and I think it took a while for my firm to like get the information down to the right people. But I will say that when John did find out, he was the kindest, sweetest, most apologetic person ever. He's like, "Oh, I was cursing your name yesterday." He's like, "But now that I have the information, are you okay? Do you need anything?" And then
I was worried about you, big time.
we did, and that was before we even met, like in person. But I will say that when John and I finally did meet, it was a friendship right from the beginning. We have very similar sense of humors. We laughed a lot. We accomplished a lot. We vented a lot. But we did a lot together, and I think we made a really good team. So it all worked out in the end. And here we are
Absolutely.
today.
Absolutely. There's this really strange person who's putting hello, Jamba. John. John, how are you doing? It's fine. That's my mom. Hi, mom.
Oh, that's funny. Hi, Mom.
Any let's see. We're almost at the hour. We're past the hour. Is
So I
there
know,
any?
John, you provided the link.
Okay,
So
I'll bring the link up once more for your raising over there.
yeah. So if anybody needs it, you can either obviously type that out or ask John. We can get that to you. But again, you don't need to be, donating hundreds of dollars, a dollar, $5. I mean, every single person that does that, it adds up, and it really, benefits the MS Society and goes towards research for a cure for MS, or further in the drug research, etc. So it's important. So if people do, I'm gonna say thank you in advance, and thank you for having me, John.
Susan, it's been incredible to have you on the show tonight. I really appreciate you telling your story, you telling Brenna's story, but more importantly, I am so thankful and blessed for our friendship, and I absolutely unequivocally doesn't. The words that come to my mind is "I love you." Thank you,
Mhm.
Susan. Thank you for
I love you
jumping on
too,
the show
John.
tonight.
Thank you so much, and I hope that we get to do another show together.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to jump on, let me know. We talk about anything you want.
Okay, I love it.
Susan, you have a great night.
You too.
I love you. Take care.
Thank you.
Susan Williams, an incredible person, incredible story. Her daughter Brenna is a very fantastic person, and just what she is doing for multiple sclerosis and raising money for the National MS Society is just mind blowing. Her site again is bndfr.com/dn5capr9. That information is in the meeting invite, or the meeting of the post for this venture forward, both on YouTube and on Facebook. But if you're wondering where her site is to raise money for the National MS Society, just let me know and I can refer you to that link. If you want to know more about the National MS Society or more about multiple sclerosis, 1-800-344-4867. Again, 1-800-344-4867. Or you can go see them at nationalmssociety.org. It's going through the second demyelination, the event that basically gave me the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, has been very eye-opening. But it also reminds me that there is a large community of people that are trying to find a cure. They're trying to find disease-modifying treatments that help us, that help those that have MS. They said, my neurologist said that in the next 18 to 24 months, there are 10 drugs that are out there that, by way of disease-modifying treatment, that are going to hit the landscape. So the researchers, the scientists, they're all doing the best they can in such a curious time, but also we're very close. We're very close to finding a cure to multiple sclerosis. So again, 1-800-344-4867, nationalmssociety.org. Sue says, thank you both. Get that up there. Thank you, Sue, for joining us. Thursday night, we're going to continue the story we had from last Thursday in the sense of addiction around us, the addictions that we have, but also the addictions that others have. Last week we talked about what it meant to our family and friends. This week we're going to talk about what it means to our professional contacts, whether it is our 9 to 5 or the clients that we're trying to see or the prospects or our colleagues, employees, whatever. How that changes when the stakes are a little bit higher. So we're going to continue the story about addiction around us on Thursday at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific, and then on Friday, as we normally do on Friday, we'll have another VF Talks and a cantankerous Triceratops who thinks he's a T-Rex at 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific. But until then, I'm going to tell you the same thing I say at the end of every Venture Forward. Stay safe, stay sane, stay strong, stay sober. You're worth it. Have a great night. I will see you on Thursday. Take care.